Hello, my name is Judd Apatow, the producer and co-writer of Walk Hard.
I'm Jake Kasdan. I'm the director, co-writer, and co-producer of Walk Hard.
I'm John C. Reilly, and I play Dewey Cox in Walk Hard.
I'm Lou Morton, executive producer.
That means Lou Morton added more sweet funny, if you wonder what Lou did.
That's right. It also means that we're all working on the same movie, which is good news. We're all from Walk Hard.
So this is the long cut and the short cut. We're doing the same commentary at the same time. I guess I'll cut out the commentary from the long cut to make the short cut, so any enormous leaps of logic will be explained by that edit.
That's right. And we advise listening to both, ultimately. It's better to listen to the commentary twice, and the extended commentary will give you even more commentary.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. Out of the gate, we've just had our first dick joke. We're about 5 seconds into the movie.
Yeah.
We're about to redo that dick joke 11 times in the next 14 seconds.
That's right.
So let's start from the beginning. Jay called me one night and said, I have this great idea for a movie, and I never come up with big comedy ideas. Shouldn't we spoof these music biopics? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And then Jake wasn't so sure whether or not he really wanted to do it, so I had to push him.
You mean like actually do it?
Yeah, Jake didn't like the idea of...
When you say let's do it, you mean like tomorrow we start doing that?
And then I called Jake a few days later and I said, Jake, you just have to ask yourself one question. Do you want to own a house?
I always think that story paints me in a curious light. When
I know.
Told that way.
And I don't think that's why Jake did it, but it really says more about my manipulative ways as a producer.
Well, what's extraordinary about your manipulative ways as a producer, and it's not the first time that I call it the Apatow mind trick. It's a series of 3 short phone calls wherein by the end of them you've made a decision that's going to influence years of your life.
Yeah.
It's the same way we started working together on Freaks and Geeks, which is Judd called and said, I'm doing this pilot. You want to come direct it? It shouldn't be that big a deal. It'll take a couple of weeks. You should probably just do it. And by the end of the phone call, you sort of realize that you've agreed to do it, and you're pumped, and it does change the course of your life. Likewise, in those first couple of conversations, next thing I knew, it was happening. Within weeks, we were writing this thing.
About 2 days after that phone call, I got a call from Judd, and he told me, I think I tricked Jake into doing Walk Hard.
What's extraordinary, it only speaks to my usual reticence in making big decisions. Judd manages to bypass and short-circuit that
Yeah, he
thing.
usually keeps it very casual with the actors. Like when he first called me, he's like, he calls on some other context, like to talk about Talladega Nights DVD or something, and then it's like, oh hey, right at the end of the conversation, I was just talking to Jake Kasdan, and we were really laughing about this funny idea for a biopic, and we were thinking like you would probably be really funny to do that, but you probably don't want to do something like that. Anyway, I'll talk to you later, man. We'll talk next week or something. Like you hang up like, what? What were they laughing at?
What are you doing
so
in 2006 and 2007?
Oh, Dewey just cut his brother in half.
There was a lot of debate about how can you kill a child and have an audience enjoy it. There was talk of of him falling off a roof, and then we ultimately realized we shouldn't make it softer. We should go 10 times nastier with it.
Yeah.
And then if he continues to talk,
Yeah.
then maybe it's okay, because he got cut in half real bad right
We'd
here.
been talking about the possibility that this is such a weird idea. We'd been talking about the possibility that the brother falls off the roof in the barn and breaks the sockets of his shoulders and loses the ability to use his shoulders. You remember that, Judd?
That's right. We thought
And,
that was his brother's big injury, is that because he's a piano player, his arms just hang all day long. I think one of us has a BlackBerry that's interfering with
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Mine is not in the room.
Oh, it's Jake Kasdan.
No.
It's Lou. It's Lou.
It's off. I'm innocent.
I don't know.
Something's going down in this room.
Maybe I have some other transmitting device. But then I remember I called
Probably
up.
by my pacemaker.
And I remember I called Judd up one night and I said, if he didn't fall off the roof and instead it was like they were playing a game and he got cut in half. And Judd said, well, that's the other way to go, is he gets cut in half with a machete on the third page. That's the other thing we could do. And he says it as though that's like as though there's a book somewhere and that's one of the options, is cut in half with a machete on the third page.
There's a Sid Field book.
We should go that way.
It'll pay, Stewie.
Now, John, when you first heard this idea, I know that you were concerned, and for a while you were pitching that you were, it was like a Everly Brothers type, a duo.
Well, that was sort of the Sophie's choice for me, was I had some designs on an actual biopic, which I was going to do in a really cool way. That was not like regular biopics.
It was all going to be inside his mind.
Yeah, and I had been looking for years.
The brother wasn't going to get killed till page 10.
I was going to do it like in snatches and not make it linear and just,
Like the Dylan one.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, not really. I haven't seen that one, but anyway, yeah, I wanted to do like a story about two brothers that sang together, and that's how I met Jack White.
Really?
Yeah, because I had this idea, and I was searching for someone to play the brother who could sing with me, who could sing harmony. And then I thought, oh, he wants to get into acting, from that part in Cold Mountain. And Renee Zellweger, my friend, knows him, so I got his number and called him, and that's when my first conversation started with Jack.
And what is his number?
In Detroit, it's 6,
And can we be his friend?
So when you called him for the movie, it was kind of like...
We'd talked a couple times already about working together maybe, and then I'd gone to some of their shows, and yeah, so the well was primed.
Mm-hmm. Now here's one thing about this scene that's actually kind of interesting, which is this bluesman is the legendary Honey Boy Edwards. And he's been doing this for quite some time. He's written a lot of amazing songs. He was personal friends with Robert Johnson, who died in 1934.
They were old friends.
Gives you a sense that, and Honey Boy is actually one of the experts on Robert Johnson, and I believe he is now he's about 94 years old, which we should all, aspire to be.
He was actually going to do this commentary. He's driving here, but very slowly.
But filming this scene, I will say, was one of the really fascinating, surreal filming experiences I've ever had, because everybody involved, well, particularly Connor, who plays young Dewey and is very talented and very funny, and Honey Boy, they're one very young and one's been doing this a while, but not doing exactly this. It was like a great sort of surreal walk hard moment making this scene.
It was a scene where the two main actors in the scene, their average age is 50.
That's right.
I know, Jake, you said we should all aspire to be 94 years old. I say fuck that. I want to aspire to be 15 years old.
That's true too.
And here comes a scene where I get to play 15 years old, or 14 actually in this one.
Yeah.
It's a lot of action back there. Kids juggling.
Yeah.
That's the world of a talent show.
The rest of the talent show. Yeah.
That's always the big issue with a movie like this is how young will the lead actor think he can play?
We always thought it was really funny that the sort of fictional, that the attitude of the filmmakers of us was that it's the most important movie ever made, and that the performance is the most important performance of all time, and therefore it should start at the youngest possible parameter beyond what seems even possible, really, which would be that John would play the part from 14 to 80.
I think Sissy Spacek pulled off 13 in Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yeah, it's a great convention of the biopic. There was also a moment, I was talking about this the other night, when we momentarily considered replacing a child's head with John's head and having him play it even from 6 years old.
I made a hard play for that one. I remember. I thought that was a great idea. It was just too expensive to do, though.
And really would have been just the weirdest thing of all time.
I think they did that in Fred Claus.
That's right.
They did.
John Michael Higgins was an elf, and they put his head on an actual little person.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of extension that's happening.
Extra juggling. See, someone's BlackBerry. See, someone's getting the
Swear to God,
signal.
it's not me.
I have
It's
no
just-
signal.
this
I think
is-
it's someone in the other room.
This girl was the sweetest. She was actually a really great little tap dancer, and she was nervous. Aww.
Well, Jake made her tap like a 7-minute routine to get that 6 seconds.
To find the best 6 seconds. I wanted something to pick from.
This is always a mystery joke that Matt Price gets a big laugh on the ladies in germs.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a mystery joke.
It's pure charisma. It is pure Matt Price charisma.
It's pure comic charisma.
When we started this, Jake and I did a little film festival where we watched all of these movies. Great Balls of Fire and the Buddy Holly story. We even watched the Marilyn Monroe movie where Norma Jean is played by one woman and Marilyn is played by another.
So it's Mira Sorvino and Ashley Judd each playing different aspects of Marilyn Monroe, fighting in conflict and fighting with each other in every scene.
And a lot of what's in the movie came from that initial film festival. Especially the one that made me laugh the most was erotic dancing in the African American nightclub.
Yeah.
That really made us laugh in Great Balls of Fire. That
Yeah,
it was
that's how
just
the movie opens, which is that's what's happening literally on the wrong side of the tracks. It starts with the kids walking across train tracks, and you see they look in a barn window, and that's what's going on.
I'm sorry, I haven't heard a word you're saying. I'm just transfixed by this performance.
Yeah, I understand.
this musical
My
performance.
God. There really is no comment I can make here.
This is the first. No, it's not. Yeah, there's no comment to make. It's the first nothing. It's the only time.
We have our first vomit.
Yeah, exactly. That's our first puke.
There's Kristen Wiig for the first time in the movie.
Yeah. Getting pointed at.
Now, who wrote this particular song?
This song was written by Antonio Ortiz, who is a guy that I'm friendly with and a really good songwriter, and he just nailed the innocuous pop song. That was one of our first song concepts, was the super innocuous Buddy Holly-esque early rock song that starts a riot, and he really nailed it.
And that's Rance Howard, Ron Howard's dad, as the priest.
That's right.
He also, I believe, was a priest in Anchorman. We cut that scene out, but it's on the DVD.
You definitely got the sense talking to him that that's one of his things that he specializes in, and in fact has the robes.
I have now worked with both of Ron Howard's parents.
Really?
I worked with his father in this movie, and in a short film for cable that Tom Cruise directed, I worked with his mother.
Really?
Yeah.
Which of Ron Howard's parents is better?
Don't put John in that position. Don't put John in that position. And Jake, talk about who plays Pa here.
Well, this is Ray Berry, who's a brilliant character actor and thespian and stage actor and actor who's just done a ton of great work, always in real movies. This was his indoctrination into fake movies, and it was really fun to cross that threshold with him. He's just like he's just this incredibly imposing, brilliant guy, and also the sweetest guy on earth. And the ladies love Ray Berry. It turns out.
And for a day, we thought he was the ex-professional football player. There was a rumor going around that he was the Hall of Famer. Ray Berry.
There was that, and he's got the.
And he's not.
He's got the physique that you could be confused about it. He's this like towering figure of a man, and really funny in this.
Speaking of erotic dancing, we're about to get some very hyped up African American people on the dance floor.
Now, Judd, tell us a little bit about this song.
Now, my grandfather produced this song back in the 50s or 60s.
Not a bit.
Jump Little Children. And Bobby Shad, the singer, is named after my grandfather, Bobby Shad, who produced the first Janis Joplin record. And
Again, all of this is not a bit.
All true.
All true.
This is an extension of this performance where we've got this shot that was... This is one of the only things that was really painful for me to cut out of the theatrical version was all this stuff. Some of it's in the movie, but we extended the song. I love this song. It's worth, at this moment, early on, acknowledging Mike Andrews, who produced all of this music and laid down this track with a bunch of his team of crazies, and It's the first time the movie actually rocks, I always think. It's the first shot at actual foot tapping, because you're probably not going to tap your foot during Take My Hand. It's distracting. It's not a sensation of rocking, whereas Jump is the first time Dewey moves to the big city, and it gets exciting.
And Ann Fletcher choreographed that sequence.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And she did the dance at the end of 40-Year-Old Virgin and just directed
She also
27
was a
dresses.
featured dancer in Boogie Nights. And
Really?
was the
Really?
choreographer on Boogie Nights.
She was also the choreographer on Orange County. We all love Ann Fletcher.
Now, this actor really made us laugh.
Yes, Paul. He's great.
This is based on the Jennifer Goodwin character in Walk the Line, the not supportive wife.
Although it's a character that occurs in basically every...
It's in the Robert Johnson story as well.
There's always...
the Al Jolson story.
And the sort of math of it we figured out is, in order for our hero to be incredibly sympathetic and still heroic when he leaves his wife for another woman midway through the movie, you need the first wife to be awful to him throughout the whole first half of the movie and kind of yelling at him all the time and clearly not believing. So she's always saying, he's going to fail even when he's a great success.
I wish we kept this joke in the Slaughterhouse flashback.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever seen it.
I always pitched Jake the idea of a cow just screaming right into the camera. But,
Now, John, how did you go about, how do you prepare to play Dewey Cox?
oh, God, I've answered that question so many times on the junket this weekend already, but
This time you can tell the truth.
yeah.
By the time anyone's hearing this, they're already so committed.
I prepare by reading my sides in the trailer that morning, Judd, like all actors do. No, I've watched a lot of documentaries, and making the music was really the big preparation for this character.
8 months of recording. John tracked 40 original songs with him singing them over the course of about 8 months with Mike producing all that stuff, and Manish and Tom Wolfe, the music supervisors who were coordinating it, and all these great songwriters.
This is actually one of the first scenes that we wrote for the movie The Long Hard Walk.
Speech.
This is early on in the filming, too. This is
Yeah.
one of the
This
first
was-
things we did,
this
and
was,
I remember when Kristen came in, I thought, like, all right, this movie's going to be all right if we can get people that can improvise as well as she can.
Yeah, this was the fourth day, and it was one of the original ideas, which is that he gives this speech where you can hear the title of the movie trying to jump out of the speech, but the character can't do it.
It was one of my dreams as an actor to be able to say the title of the movie.
It is one thing that I've got to say, and no one ever believes me, but I'm a big Walk the Line fan, but they do have, it is the great moment when Reese Witherspoon walks out of the theater and says, "You can't walk the line." It's the appearance of song titles in dialogue that inspire song titles in the movie.
But you have said titles before in movies, John. I remember I saw you in that one movie where you said, "What's he eating Gilbert Grape?" And there's that other movie where you said, "This night's really boogieing."
Yes. Excuse me, Dolores Claiborne.
Look, he's not just Howard Hughes. He's the aviator. The businessman? No, the aviator.
Oh, I really feel like a casualty of this particular war.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, this the Jewish record company executives.
Yeah, no one's been mentioning this, but we made it.
Strong choice.
Yeah, we've been a big, strong choice here that I fought from the very beginning, and then came to love.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You come to love it because it's Harold Ramis and Phil Rosenthal and Martin Starr playing our Jews, who are just so funny. But it is a funny thing where you show this movie to an audience and there's like a real reaction to just the appearance of Hasidic guys. Like it's a laugh, but it's also like it's applause. Like there's real Hasidim appreciation out there, it turns out. People applaud when they see Hasidic people. I had no idea.
Mel Brooks was onto something.
That's right.
I have to give special props to Bill Murray for the little monologue before the song, because on that famous recording he did with National Lampoon on that comedy record where he's the jazz musician who's talking to Mr. Rogers. The voice that he does in that bit was my inspiration for my little monologue here.
It's funny.
That's Craig Robinson from The Office and the bouncer in Knocked Up, who was very funny and apparently punched his landlord while he had laryngitis.
Yeah.
There was a line before, I don't know if it's in here now, where the city Jews look at each other and go, "This is racially insensitive."
Yeah, we just passed it in the extended version here.
This is so crazy doing these musical numbers, I have to say. I was prepared in a lot of ways for this movie, a lot of the acting I was prepared for. To actually entertain people on a stage with a musical act, like, even though I recorded this song, I was really kind of improvising my way through all these stage moves in every one of these musical numbers. Right there, that's improvised. Right there, a little duck walk.
with such authority.
So you had never done a duck walk before. The night before, you're not duck walking around the house.
No, I'd watch Chuck Berry do it.
I think he's the one we want.
He's got a nice thing.
He's not so bad with the singing and the playing and the shaking of the tuchus.
My favorite Hasidic line in the movie.
Well, it's just nice to have Harold Ramis around, since he's the inventor of so much of what we do. It's funny when you rewatch
It's my second time working with Harold. It's Judd's second or third time.
Harold High in Orange County is one of his finest moments, I think.
Harold has a whole sequence in Orange County. It was one of the ideas that most excited me in Orange County.
Harold on ecstasy trying to kiss Colin Hanks.
In the script, actually, it was that he was trying to... I think I tell this story on the Orange County commentary, but it was in the script, it was Harold... his character was supposed to try to blow Colin Hanks's character. We made an adjustment.
This is so funny. The songs, the way we picked some of the songs is very careful and deliberate. And the way we picked other songs, especially the covers, was completely improvised and random. Like, we're all sitting around trying to think, like, what song should he sing? I think in the script it was originally Moon River, and then we discovered that Moon River was written 10 years after the scene is supposed to take place.
And we discovered that, like, right at the absolute last possible moment as we were about to record it, after it had been in the script for about a year.
And then someone just tossed out That's Amore, and we whipped up a bluegrass version of That's Amore.
This actually was a scene that we never really had a take on how to do the producer. We knew we wanted the producer who keeps telling you that you're doing a bad job and inspires you to reveal your greatness. But John Michael Higgins came in and just ripped the shit out of this idea, and it was one of the most exciring days on the set.
I
Was this
feel
the
like
first day with me?
it was your third. It was your second day, the third day of shooting. It was the I remember very explicitly because I feel like John Michael Higgins is the guy who made the biggest contribution to this movie in a broad way in terms of the overall tone of the movie in the shortest time. He's someone who was working on the movie for 12 hours and really, for me, was like this was one of the shooting the scene was one of the moments where I watched it. Now the combination of having John singing these songs and having these John and Higgins, who are both these monster improvisers, doing these 10-minute takes of this scene and really coming up with crazy funny stuff, and this incredible set that Jeff Sage built. It was like an inspirational set to me. I felt like the movie has to be as good as this set. That became like the bar to get. And
I felt bad that we had to tear down the set.
it was like everybody just, and the clothes are so good. Deborah McGuire's costumes, and Uta Briezowitz really shows, who shot the movie with me. She's the cinematographer. She shot my last movie, also the TV set. It's everybody working at such a sort of strong level, but the actual text of the scene was like not our finest, and Higgins came in and just so completely got a joke that in a way I'm not even sure we fully had computed, and it really kind of set the pitch for here's what Walk Hard's gonna be like.
I just remember turning to people after this day and saying, holy shit, Higgins came in loaded for bear, man. Like,
And hopped into it like a day or two before, and I remember saying to him, like, here's the thing. It's the producer who doesn't believe in him and keeps saying he doesn't believe in him, and he says, yeah, I got it. Sounds good. Let's do it. Just completely had this move ready to go, and it was so funny.
And for our band, we have Tim Meadows on drums and Matt Besser on piano and Chris Parnell on bass there.
Yeah.
And those are some of the great
Yeah.
comedy actors.
yeah, it's the first time we see those guys. They made a huge contribution. Talk about setting the tone. Those guys were
Yes,
like my safety net
absolutely.
through the whole thing.
And hugely funny and always good for, you cut to them for a face and they're always funny. And this is the first time we hear the song Walk Hard by Marshall Crenshaw and us. But this is Manish Raval and Tom Wolfe, who are music supervisors, said, as we were starting to get people writing, they said, Marshall Crenshaw is a guy whose sensibility would probably dig this, and they sent it to him. And Marshall, like in a couple of days, sent back this demo, and for using sort of what we had written in the script, which was like a fragment of of this, and sort of a direction, and the title Walk Hard, obviously, and sort of what that means. And Marshall just took that, and it was a perfect, almost instantaneous interpretation where he got that thing, walk hard, and that lick, and
He had
after
a
that,
great
I
take
wanna-
my
that was
hand,
it.
too.
I want to point out we have
Yeah.
an infant, a chimpanzee, and a giraffe in the same scene.
in the same shot.
That's never been done before.
No, I think I don't even know if anyone's ever tried.
This scene I enjoyed because when you shot it, all these kids were screaming and crying. And if anything, we brought down the volume of their screaming and crying because it would be disturbing.
Yeah.
It was disturbing Jake a lot. He's like,
freaking
"I just
me
can't-"
out.
I have kids. I'm used to babies crying. It just sounds like babies talking to me. But Jake was like, when they cry,
They're suffering.
I just can't
I
take
can't
it.
let these children suffer for our...
Because then if they stop crying, you have to make them cry so it matches. So you got to have a kid slap them around to make sure it's all the same.
We had a great baby wrangler on this movie. When she pulled up in that semi-trailer with those cages in the back, I mean, it's air conditioned in there. They're perfectly comfortable.
A lot of people don't know this, but if you want 6 babies in a scene, you got to have 27 babies there on set so you can use the best 6 and leave the other ones penned. So,
Look at how her hair sticks out.
yeah, that's a
good move. That's a good air move.
digging that, yeah.
That's just, you just missed this. Well, just a second ago, she does this classic, your body is turning before your face is turning kind of move, and she does it throughout the movie.
She does it. In fact, I was just looking at a little montage the other day of Kristen turning around in moments, and she has like 6 crazy turnarounds.
And look, we cut back, and she's just covered in gobby spit and boogers.
Now, John, it will be hard to act seriously again after all of this. Does this ruin drama
No.
for you?
It's
Or-
all the same. It's all the same. Doing drama didn't ruin comedy for me, and
I remember when we did Anchorman, like the whole time we were shooting it, it felt like not just mocking anchors, but mocking the whole idea of acting. The idea of committing and just believing what you're saying.
well, it is a charade.
This is an extended thing right there.
Like, did you think the next time Martin Scorsese calls, you'll try to punch up the scene?
He just did. But I was already doing something.
Here's Ennis,
John,
the Big Bopper.
Ennis from Mr. Show. We had a pre-record of this, but he said he thought he could handle vocals.
He thought he could do it. In fact, he walked up to me with a very straight face and said, I can do this better than your pre-record. I can sound exactly like the Big Bopper. It turns out, and Dan Byrne, who wrote a bunch of the other songs and sang our pre-record, had actually said to Mike Andrews, I can do this exactly like the Big Bopper. It turns out that's something a lot of people aspire
You wouldn't
to,
think
that
that
you
would
don't
be-
know about.
yeah.
It's one of those secret ambitions that people confess to you, but Ennis rips that scene. It's just the most ridiculous gag, which is that he's out there with a guitar that he's not playing and a phone. And that's what the Big Bopper actually did, which is he had a guitar strapped on but didn't play it when he did the song. He was a DJ.
That's Frankie Muniz and
Yeah.
Ed Helms.
That was our original cameo idea, was that Frankie would play Buddy Holly, and I remember writing it into the script saying, Buddy Holly standing in the wings, and in parentheses it said Frankie Muniz cameo. And
then he keeps repeating his own name, so
Yeah.
you know that it's Buddy Holly because he doesn't look like Buddy Holly.
and then everyone else who's from history and appears in the movie follows that convention. And here's the first scene that we did where the ghost comes back, and we ended up removing it from the theatrical version, mainly just because
The movie was 9 hours.
the movie was 9 hours long, and we were discovering that the convention we were making fun of, which is where a ghost appears to help explain the psychology of what's happening for the lead character in a moment that would otherwise just be a shot of someone thinking, was in fact starting to trip us up, and that really what it was that John's performance of everything made it so clear where he was in his story, to the extent that we were tracking it. Because making it, you
we
are
did not need a
tracking it.
ghost device.
We did not need the ghost to show up and tell us. So
This
we
was one of those crazy scenes of filming that scene, like actually getting really emotionally invested in it, like a regular
right.
drama, and then have to have some kind of funny joke gag run at the end of it. Like that, this sort of set the tone for a lot of scenes in the movie where I would get really serious and then take some completely cuckoo left turn at the end of the scene.
Jack White came and I thought was just very cool and easy to work with. I mean, you expect to be intimidated because
because he's one of the coolest people in the
It's
world
also
right
his-
at the moment.
It's also his real hair, which
It's his
he
real
came
hair.
with his own
impressive.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, when he showed up, that we suddenly had credibility that we just otherwise did not have, as well as a really good scene. He could not have been looser. He could not have been funnier. I mean, I just kind of loved
started
the
doing
morning
this
working with him.
This
It was
country
fun.
gibberish thing was so crazy. Like most professionally trained actors would balk at doing an entire scene in gibberish, but Jack's like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
And then afterwards, when you think, after working with him, you think about the White Stripes music that, I mean, I love. And you just go like, well, yeah, that, of course, I hear a brain in those songs that could be this completely insane, improvising for 7 hours.
I just kept giving him notes, but really only so the set photographer could take pictures of me talking to him.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything to say.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even give notes. I just stood in the background holding a pen. And it worked.
So here's the performance of Walk Hard. I will say that this was, for me, in a way, probably the hardest cut from the theatrical movie, because the energy of it is so cool. We did the whole song, and Uta shot that scene so beautifully that it really was kind of like hard to lose, although we have most of the same shots in the Life Without You performance in a second here. But that Walk Hard performance is the centerpiece of our Walk Hard music video that is available all over the place.
There were 2 Playboy Playmates in that scene, by the way.
Yep. Well, in the coming scene.
No, what we just saw, the fiddle player and the
yeah,
backup
you're
singer,
right.
two former.
How did
Playmates.
you find out that information?
When I was pretending to have sex with them, they told me.
How does that come up during
Both
sex?
actresses also, and
Actress
both
/ model.
both really funny, and both had sort of parts that are now available to us again in the extended.
This is something we noticed that made us laugh in Ray, was that it was always the same guy in the bathroom doing drugs. That he wouldn't fight that hard for you not to join him. He would try to do the quick, come on, you don't need to do this with me. I got a problem. You don't.
You're
you
an
don't want no
innocent.
part of
You're not
this."
ready for this kind of darkness.
But he's gonna let you join him if you have any
If you
any
push
energy
it all,
there.
yeah. This was kind of like our first runner. You don't want no part of this shit, and
I didn't get ready for the T-shirts.
yeah.
That's all I gotta say, America.
It was very nice doing this scene for this moment right here, where this incredibly beautiful girl named Odetta blows smoke in my mouth.
which has never happened in life.
She's the star.
Not with that girl.
She's one of the stars of Cloverfield. Yeah. You heard me, Cloverfield. And here's Life Without You. Now this song, Mike Viola wrote, and I think that in a way, in one category, this is mine and I know John's favorite song in the movie. It's a beautiful song. It's an astounding performance from John, and that is him, and almost no one can do this. Try singing along with this song on your next time you're in the shower. Most people don't have that physiology or ability or gift, and
Now, in the movie, we cut out the parts where he's cheating on his wife in this montage because people were so, I don't know, they turned on the character to watch him cheat so many times that even though it's a goof on it, they actually got upset. So we thought maybe it'd be funnier to play the whole song and then cut to him having sex with 11 women in one moment.
It's a funny detail of the movie, and it does speak to something that John's doing, which is the character in all versions of the movie does some really horrendous stuff that it's hard to feel good about, as is the thing in movies like this that we're parodying. But John gets away with an unbelievable amount of really insidiously bad behavior, and it doesn't get in the way of people loving him at all. And within that, like a shot like that, is just, why test it when you've got that
Speaking
much?
of Playboy Playmate, this girl who I was just having
Starlight.
sex with, yeah, she's a former Playmate.
She is.
Yes.
And,
And here she is riding me like a horse.
That's
while
what she
just-
told you right there.
Very
That's what she told
fearless.
you.
Yeah.
And he was in what Chud magazine?
Parnell.
Parnell, what magazine is it? Chud.com. The problem with this sequence is that you like John and Dewey so much that that's what I find fascinating. That even though the movie is ridiculous, people really believe in the character, which is a tribute to John's acting.
And the other thing about that is just that song is so much. You don't want to watch. The song deserves its moment, and it ended up working that way also.
Now we're about to make movie history.
Yeah.
So
This is pretty much why we made this movie Walk Hard.
there was discussion that why can Harvey Keitel show his penis and you can't in a comedy, and so we thought, well, maybe we've shown the vagina in Knocked Up. Can't we just show the penis for way too long? And
It's
we
a
showed,
reasonable question,
and we
I think
showed it
we've
a
seen-
lot.
We've seen 8 breasts already.
and we're just getting going.
Taking care of the kids. Went down to Wilson's Market the other day to pick up some milk.
Now this is a different cut than in the movie. This is
The more penis
This is
cut.
a more
This is
aggressive
the
cut.
extended cock cut.
Yeah.
It turned out when we showed this to audiences for the first time, you could show too much penis.
Yeah, and the way that that's happened is you're sitting in a crowded movie theater, the penis enters, there's a huge reaction, the reaction ends, and the penis is still there, and you're sitting there in silence
and
listening
suddenly
to
you're
dialogue.
you're in a less
Stewing.
crowded theater.
You're stewing in penis at that point.
And then I remember in one test screening, you actually hear a woman after the laughter dies down, the penis is still there, and the woman goes, "Oh God!" It was like she was being assaulted.
We knew in these test screenings that when only 2 or 3 people would walk out at the scene that we had it right.
We were right in the zone there.
This is my favorite part of the entire scene right here is when you reveal what the man looks like who is the owner of the penis.
That's Tyler.
And look how funny he is. He really that is a hilarious performance.
That is
right
Tyler
there.
Nelson, who plays Bert. Yeah, he's really funny.
If you watch our cockumentary also on this DVD, you'll see how funny he is.
I mean, really, legitimately, truly funny. Like, that's what's great is we ended up with a guy who so completely got that joke. He just found the perfect attitude. And you don't even need to see his face, in fact, to see it. It's all comes across in the penis. That is incredible penis acting.
John, why do you think people are so afraid of the penis in this day and age?
Oh, I don't know. I think it has to do with men's wanting to keep it mysterious as much as
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know I like to keep a little mystery about mine.
Yeah. I think they say there's nothing. The only thing more ridiculous than a soft penis is a hard one.
Yeah.
I think it just makes people uncomfortable one way or the other.
Well, the hard one actually is the thing I don't think you can do, and I wonder which of Judd's movies will do that.
That's the next
That's
frontier.
the final frontier.
The hard penis comedy. You gotta hang something on it.
And then what, Judd? And then the ejaculating hard penis?
Then
Where does this end?
Then the anus, you draw like eyes and a nose next to the anus and do a little puppet show. That's the end.
Well, Jim Carrey did that with his pants on, right? Didn't he do something like that? A talking ass?
Cut to 2 years from now, Judd on some commentary track somewhere saying, "Why can't you have the anus talk
Why can't you make
in comedies? What's the problem?"
the hole of the penis into a mouth and make two little eyes and do a conversation between an anus and a penis hole?
Is that really so wrong?
I just
Is
find
there
this,
a reason people... Is there some reason that society prevents us from doing that?
it is funny that people are still ashamed of any part of the body that actually horrifies some people, because it does horrify some people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It freaks people out.
It'll be very big in Europe.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember this one woman who said, like, "I do not want to see a penis." And Steve Welsh, who's one of our 2 editors, leans over to me and says, "Worst girlfriend ever."
Now, do you think that woman is good at sex or not good at sex? Because she's either the best or the worst. I don't think there's a middle ground.
I think it's unlikely she's the best. I'm not afraid to call her out here in the safety of our commentary.
It was funny about it. She said, "I don't like the penis," and then the focus group after the screening would talk for like 10 more minutes, and then she'd go, "One more thing, seriously, I don't like the penis."
That's right, she was, "I do not want to see a penis." That was the Punk Walk Hard. That was one take. John recorded that in, and I was there for that historic moment. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He did the whole song. It's available on something.
iTunes.
And
I just like that you go, "Walk, hi."
Hoy!
Oi. Yeah, Dewey was a trendsetter. He created punk rock in one drug-fueled rehearsal.
Before the world was ready for it.
Yeah. And here comes Jenna Fisher.
Here she comes.
I was wondering if you
Looking like a whole different Jenna Fisher. This is not the Pam you're used. This is not the Jenna Fisher you know. And
This is in a lot of movies, the idea that there's someone that you want to sleep with that you shouldn't because they're religious or you're married, that's actually in a lot of these movies.
how can you tell she's religious? She has a 4-inch crucifix hanging around her neck. So
Half of her cross is between her cleavage. That's how you know. And who's the voice of this song?
The voice of this song is a woman named Angela Correa. The writer of this song is a guy named Charlie Wadhams, who is another musician that I was friendly with that I knew through all the musicians I hang with, including Mike Andrews, and my girlfriend's a musician, and Nara George, and they used to play together all the time, and she and Charlie, and he just ripped this. Charlie was working in a pizza place and writing songs for Walk Hard. When he'd get off work, he wrote Guilty as Charged in the duet. And I'm gonna hang it out there and say that this is the joke, the music joke, that we've gotten the most mileage out of so far. He just nailed this concept so completely. Really funny dude. And
The song was really sweet and just a great song before we made it all
Yeah.
about getting blown.
yeah. He wrote the 2 songs with Benji Hughes and Gus Seifert, I should say. But Charlie is the man who did the duet. And Angela was somebody that Mike had worked with, and she just has this rockin', sexy voice, and it was a great idea. She came in, we recorded it one night, and we all just fell in love with the end result. They just had sounded exactly right. And when Jenna hopped on, she eventually had agreed, like, well, we're not going to beat that. That sounds pretty perfect.
Here's some erotic carpentry.
Yeah,
Some erotic horse riding.
There's a whinny there. Shameless whinnying.
An anal sex joke. It's got everything you
It's
really need.
got everything. And I swear this is a joke that my mom drives around LA singing this song to herself in the car, she tells me. So it's got something for everyone.
Yeah, this is where I convinced Jenna to put her back to me when she said this line.
Yep. Yep.
Now, John, you resisted the full-blown comedy work for a while. You were funny in a lot of movies, but you didn't go for it in sexual carpentry before. How do you feel now that this is completed in terms of the arc of it all?
It's not that I was resisting comedy. In fact, my second movie was a comedy, We're No Angels, and some people didn't think so.
The
but
David Mamet film.
Yeah, well, Neil Jordan directed it, but no, I did a lot of funny stuff and more serious movies, and some movies I think are just straight up comedies, like Boogie Nights. There's serious stuff in it, but there's an awful lot of laughter in it. But
And
yeah,
regardless of the
truth
fact
is,
that that's true, we're all just going to continue to perpetuate the mythology that you'd never done anything funny
Yeah.
before. I'm going to say it all the time.
And
So this is the first time you had ever, in fact, laughed in your life, was Talladega Nights and now Walk Hard.
I wish I could say I was so hotly sought after, Judd, that I was just turning down big comedy after big comedy. But the fact is, it took you assholes this long to figure out that I was funny. So
You made this decision not to be an enormous comedy star for the first 12 years of your career, 15 years.
yeah, I decided I didn't want to make the kind of money that comedians were making. So.
That's a noble choice. And here's a song that John wrote with Mike Viola called Darlene, clearly about Jenna's character, Darlene. But we had this hilarious idea for a spelling joke, which is that the song is called Darlene. Yep. Get a hold of yourselves. But it's a great song, and John
Is this Jenna's first scene?
led that.
Was this the first scene Jenna shot in the whole film?
No.
No, she gave
Second
birth. She gave
This
birth.
was very early, though, yeah.
She gave birth in the studio first in the 60s, and then she did this.
Was it? I think, yeah, very early.
So the first thing she had to do was give birth, and then
No, I'm sorry. She did that whole black sheep thing, and then this was her first time in the 50s look.
A penis in my vagina. It's just so silly.
Oh, that's so silly. Well, we better get some sleep. I pitched an idea to Parnell for this where he would be dealing himself a hand, but you didn't see his hands, and it looked like he was just moving his hand rapidly down by his waist.
There's some really gross stuff that's not in the movie from this scene that is somewhere in our deleted stuff in the Linorama, I think.
now where did the horse whinny come from? Because
I'm ready for sex. Cue toilet flush. That's got to be one of the sexiest beginnings of a sex scene ever.
What exactly are you flushing down the toilet? That's the question.
I had to get myself ready. I had to evacuate all the things in me that are not part of sex.
That was such a great ad lib. I'm ready for sex. Just like no Barry White here.
And then I don't know why I decided to prance like a horse here.
But I'm so glad you did.
I was feeling virile, I guess.
One of the things I thought was so funny, it was this instinct Jenna had, which is that no matter what Dewey is doing, she's going to treat it like it's the hottest thing she's ever seen. And I thought that was a really funny joke that I kept pushing, which is just as ridiculous as he is anywhere, Darlene loves it. And here's the big confrontation. I feel as though I wrote this scene 20 or 30 times, and it was never actually that different. And I just know that for some reason, we kept revisiting this. But everybody here is so funny to me. The ankles, that's a Lou Morton. See, that's why you have Lou Morton with you for a year, is because at the critical moment he says, Maybe Dewey should be holding Darlene's ankles up in his shot through the whole scene. And you realize, like, yes, I almost let that slip. How could that have happened?
That's
And,
only the kind of thing you learn how to do by working at Futurama.
That's just a brilliant. I mean, look.
That and robot jokes.
makes the scene
I
for
pitched
me.
a lot of robot jokes, none of which got in the movie.
It's like, no, Lou, no robots in this movie.
Not only am I holding her ankles, but my hips are pressed against her bottom for the entire scene here.
Yeah. And you don't even get credit for that because
I
it's
know.
off camera.
I know.
You're playing it.
But I have my memories.
Yeah.
Darlene, don't go! Edith, don't go either!
He's trying to keep it all together.
Here's some
at
power
once.
running I always thought was funny. We kept it going a long time, and I like this little veer off at the end.
I want to thank Tom Cruise for the power running straight hands move.
I like there's a camel on the lawn for no apparent reason. It's never discussed.
Yeah.
It's just that the exotic animals have expanded. And this baby's really crying. And that, I think we tried to look and see the baby went
She's
into
falling
a head
asleep there
down
for a second,
position.
yeah.
Like I'm some kind of criminal.
I think we cut around the idea of how many tears were coming out of that baby because it was a little. The baby was scared of you. The baby did not like that
Yeah.
you were yelling at mama.
No.
And then you softened your performance a little bit to stop the baby from crying so hard.
Yeah.
You just raise your voice and they think they're in trouble or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I'm acting. Shut up. But that didn't help.
Drink a bowl of milk and that's fine.
Kristen Wiig is so funny and pregnant in literally every scene of the movie. So she has that high school thing where she's so like appealing and everything. And in that first thing in high school, she's just adorable. And then for every subsequent scene, she's pregnant and usually has snot dripping off of her face and her hair is doing crazy.
I want to
And
point out,
right at the end, she gets one more moment to look respectable.
I have 2 wedding rings on for this entire scene because I'm double married at this point.
Which, a lot of people have mentioned to me.
Really?
The double wedding rings. Yeah, we get a lot of the... He still forgot, even though he has 2 wedding
Well, he
rings.
wanted to honor both things. He
That's right.
technically was in a contract with both women.
That's exactly right.
A lot,
And
of, a lot of people were upset because that monkey got paid more than most of the actors in the movie. Because that's not a cheap thing to get a trained monkey that won't rip your testicles off mid-scene.
Yeah. If you want the one that doesn't do the testicle ripping, you got to pay extra for that.
And the whole time that chimpanzee was around, everyone on set at some point walked up to me and said, "Did you hear that story about that chimpanzee that attacked its owners when they
Yeah.
were visiting it?" And I think someone said that to me as I was holding the chimpanzee.
Yeah, speaking of the chimp, this scene, like, he didn't know. We had been doing it much more gentle, and then I start swearing at him, like, getting mad at him because Jake thought the chimp was too cute and the scene was getting too cute.
I was like, John, tell him off. No, really, tell him off. Get mad.
And
then he
I had
came
to,
out with it. Fuck you, monkey. Can't argue with that.
And then I had to, like, apologize to the chimp every time because I turned back and he'd be like, this shocked look on his face. Like, it was
At least he
really
didn't decide
moving.
to kill you, though.
No, he was too young to kill me still, but he's got it in for me, I'm sure. Someday when he's older, he's going to come find
He'll
me.
be back.
You'll work on some other Paul Thomas Anderson movie. You won't know it's the same monkey, and then he's going to rip your nose off.
Here's a funny thing, which is that the woman that John's about to be having sex with, well, one of the 2 women that John's about to be having sex with, came in, says to us, I'm friends with Tyler, who is the guy who had played Bert, whose penis it is. It was like we had gotten a reputation in a few weeks. Not this woman. This is Jan
She's a
Brooks. And
playmate.
she's and yeah,
It's my
she's
3rd
great.
playmate in the movie.
And but we had gotten a reputation for people who do crazy things with naked people.
We were trying to think of things that he would do that would be mean to his band because we were reading Elvis's, all these books about Elvis written by all his old pack of friends so that later they could tell him to fuck off, and one was taking his wife. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. For my 10th anniversary, I woke up my wife with a mariachi band on the lawn in the morning, and it's these guys.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's
great.
funny.
Which I only
This
realized.
is the
Tyler's
girl. This
friend,
is Tyler's
yeah.
friend who came along because she heard Tyler had a good time on the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
She's a good sport.
This is
too.
also a moment, because this is a scene that shows here Parnell and the guys, Meadows, if you look at what he's doing, those guys are playing that song, and none of those guys play those instruments. In fact, none of them played at all, except Tim played some other instruments, not drums. They learned all the songs in the movie, and they really let me hear about it. They worked really hard, and they deserve all the credit in the world, and they take all the credit in the world. But man, those
Now, there's a
guys
scene
were
there that
really
we cut out.
working on it.
One of the scenes we cut out was Ian Roberts
Yeah.
selling drugs to John.
Yeah.
And the premise was basically that he was so clearly an undercover cop who keeps saying, yes, I will sell you drugs. How much drugs do you want? I need $50 for the drugs.
All right, this is where the Academy members need to pay attention. This is where I do a scene in Yiddish, not my native language, and I cry at the same time.
That's pretty much like best actor kind of thing, I think.
The thing that really amazed me about this scene, where it's just that it really blew me away, is not only is it in Yiddish, which John doesn't speak, but John is reading the Yiddish off of Harold's hat.
You're not supposed to tell that part. You just blew my Academy
No, it's
shot.
better. It's amazing.
No, I think
It's
that increases
it's
the
it's
helps.
the
Yeah, well, there's a special
okay.
category. There's
It's
a
this
special
real
dispensation
heartfelt
for Yiddish cue cards in the
this
Academy
real heartfelt
voting.
performance.
Here's my dream
that
shot.
sucks you in. That's
A dream shot to work with Harold Ramis, our first big face-to-face scene, and he has to have Yiddish words on a piece of paper taped on the brim of his hat so I can't see his eyes. Like,
but you made magic.
yeah, that's true.
These two actors are both members of the Jake Kasdan Repertory Company. David Doty, who plays the Doctor, has been in literally everything I've ever done. It's an essential part of the casting process for me is where's Doty gonna go? And Willow, the nurse, is a very good friend, and she's so funny doing this. They're both like way overqualified for this particular scene, but we're so funny. This was kind of a fun, crazy day. During this rehab stuff, John was actually restrained, tied to the bed. There's a bunch of stuff in a bathtub, so he's like lying in a bathtub, like kind of naked, right? Ish,
Yeah.
like nakedy,
Pretty,
and
pretty much naked.
with for hours, just sort of living the experience.
This is something that I noticed in a lot of movies, is that there was usually a sex scene that was way too animalistic, where they were both having sex and kind of beating the shit out of each other. And this may be my proudest moment.
When passions are unleashed, sometimes civility goes out the window.
And when the tension's been building for as long as it has been between Darlene and Dewey, and it's still an unconsummated relationship, even after all that carpentry and everything.
Now we have body doubles here for part of this in the
See if you can tell where.
in the theatrical version. It's we did it a little bit here. In this version, you'll see a little bit
A whole
more.
bunch of it, yeah.
This kind of fake kiss always annoys me in movies. This is something that I've been irritated by for many years.
I'm going to, I'm not going to.
Oh yeah, it drives
Let's
me crazy.
do it. Oh, let's not do it. It does feel like the decision is basically made.
Because this is the tough part to just make sense as an actor, is the guy pulling back from the woman's kiss. The woman can pull back, but once a woman comes at you, the guys do not pull
And
back away from the
Especially once a woman comes at you after you've just
Yeah.
gone at her.
Exactly.
It's like Dewey is suddenly reconsidering.
Sometimes sex is so good you have to. The only thing left to do is to choke each other.
Yeah.
It's like Townsend's got to break the guitar. Sometimes you just have to also punch
Look
him
at
in the
my
balls.
abs, man. This was my proudest moment of the movie when I got myself in this kind of
Judd
shape.
really turned his body around for this thing. There's a very different John Reilly than you see in
John-
Talladega Nights.
John, how
I-
long did you work out for this role?
I grew extra. I put what's that stuff? Minoxidil or whatever, the hair growing Rogaine. I put Rogaine on my ass for this shot. 'Cause
And then
there
waxed
it
your
is.
chest, yeah.
Normally my ass is kind of hairless.
Now the funny thing about that sex scene is that Lou, I had to go shoot the old the blues thing in the beginning of the movie, and so I left Lou with the body doubles to shoot just random porn footage, and he was seriously traumatized by it. And in some ways, I think still is. We probably we'll never want to direct because of that experience.
It was the most uncomfortable experience of my life.
Yeah.
But now I have a porn directing career.
Yeah. It's Jerry Garcia.
Hey, Casey, Jones, watch your speed.
Now there's a joke to be proud of.
I believe I pitched that one.
And here's
I'll take credit for that one.
it's a good one. Now we see Dewey, Darlene, things have changed. It's the 60s now. Times are changing. They wear floral stuff. Their hair has changed. This is probably a good moment to give a quick shout out to Laurie
Guidreau.
and John Blake, who was Laurie was the hair artist, and John was the makeup artist, and Laurie just did. There's some amazing hair in this movie, and some of our best hair is still to come, but it's worth noting she just did so much incredible sort of character design work with us, figuring it out with John and I.
So if you're
and
watching the
Jenna
movie
and I.
just for the hair, sit tight because there's a lot more great hair in it.
That's right. And I recommend that fans do that. It's worth just watching the movie once just for hair. Think about that. This song, Royal Jelly, is written by Dan Byrne. Early on in the script writing process, Judd and I had this idea that Dewey would have a political period that would be manifested as he sings a bunch of songs where he sounds exactly like Bob Dylan, and they're all these sort of long, incomprehensible metaphor songs. And as soon as we had that idea, there was Dan, who's a good friend of mine and so funny. It was clearly the first phone call. I called him up. He was actually driving to LA that day. He lives in New Mexico. The next morning, he showed up literally at my door with a CD with 4 Dylan-esque crazy metaphor songs, and that was one of them.
Now, this is the Little Person song, and for a long time we resisted the cutaway to Little People at the protest rally. But in the end, we just relented. We just, it beat us. It beat us.
I said, you know, all these different crazy protest things we're doing are all funny. I don't see myself standing on the set with a bunch of little people around me and like trying to pick them up and stuff. I just draw the line there, and it turns out this little people that we hired for this scene that we ended up shooting thought this song was really funny.
They thought the song was really funny, and they're acting it great. You can see when they look at each other, they're doing this. Well, Lou had a really funny idea about how to do it, which is that they are militant little people separatists.
The Black Panther militants.
Yeah, they're the short power movement, and so they're playing sort of tough, militant little people, and they're nodding. The way they look at each other is really funny. Like,
and we shot it when
Dewey's
John wasn't
singing
there.
the truth.
We made a point of shooting it when John wasn't there.
It's true.
To make John more comfortable.
The short Panther party.
That's exactly right.
You were intimidated by them. Well,
Hey, it's the Beatles.
we always knew we were going to do a sequence with the Beatles. And the basic idea was, what if Paul McCartney and John Lennon just cursed each other out and actually physically fought? And Jack Black committed first. Then, there's a long debate about who could play the Beatles. And Paul Rudd, who looks like no Beatle and sounds like no Beatle, gets big laughs. And Schwartzman seems like he's thought about this before in his life.
Schwartzman, turns out, is a huge, lifelong Ringo Starr fan.
And Justin Long, I guess, can do an impression of every Beatle. Not just George.
Justin Long has a separate imitation for each Beatle, which is, again, try that at home sometime.
I want to
Not
point
easy.
out also that Paul Rudd was the first actor and only actor in the movie who had the nerve to directly address the camera.
to look directly into the lens to say his line.
Which I was tempted to do many times, but I refused to break that fourth wall. But Rudd did it on his one day on the movie.
Yeah.
Well, the Beatles would do that in one of these movies.
Yeah,
They would
it's
do
true.
a little
And the
look.
thing about looking into the lens, which I've heard the Office guys, the British Office guys talk about before, is that once you do it, it's hard to stop doing it, and you do it all the time. And
Then the lens becomes your friend.
the lens becomes your friend. And in fact, over the course of this, so then Rudd is kind of doing it like on every other line, and then suddenly Jack is looking into the lens. Eventually, I had to draw the line. I stepped out there. I said, "Beatles, stop looking into the lens."
I don't know if you put any of this in the extended cut, but one of the things this day, I mean, these four guys are incredible, incredible comedians. But listening to Jerry Bednob, who plays the Maharishi, swear, I could have sat cross-legged for 8 hours listening to him say swear words, and it would have made me perfectly happy. It just made me laugh so hard.
What was he saying?
Oh, just everything, like similar to 40-Year-Old Virgin, where he just goes on these incredibly blue runs. Is any of it in the movie?
No, we don't have him cursing.
exactly.
He just
Beatles, please, we can't have you saying cock, shit, ass.
I know. It became the same joke.
Well, the thing is that Judd had done it to such great effect in Virgin.
Dewey, you've been living clean.
This was like a really fun day, though.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That was pretty insane. That was a lot of firepower under one.
It was a really
roof.
fun 17-hour day.
Yeah, it was a very long day.
At one point, we were trying to get Sacha Baron Cohen to take part in this scene in some capacity, and he said that he said
was too busy.
He was very busy, and then the day we shot it, he came and visited for 3 hours.
Yeah. Because his office was on the lot.
So it turns out he was busy in the morning, but even Sasha could feel the gravitational pull of how much fun that was. This was Jenna's last thing in the movie, done at like 3 in the morning, and that was pretty crazy.
At one point, there was talk of Stephen Merchant from Extras playing Brian Epstein. He had a vacation plan.
This is something that we talked about for a long time and only actually achieved in the last 25 minutes before we locked the movie. But this is an animated LSD sequence by Jeff McFetridge, who's a great graphic artist and animator and friend of the organization. And
My favorite thing are the noses.
yeah.
Jack, the Paul McCartney character almost has like a little pig nose.
Yeah. And yours is curiously kind of red.
Yeah.
And there are all the environments like giving him the finger. It's a really funny cartoon. And this thing is funny because that horizontal entrance from Ringo at the end was an idea that some Beatles had that day. I think it was Jack and Rudd had that idea. And so they were actually physically handling this equipment cart that was Jack and Rudd are right off camera actually inserting Schwartzman into that shot.
There was a lot of discussion when we were writing the script about how much drug use was too much, because he's on pot, he's on coke, he's on pills,
And it's
he's
basically
on acid,
the main
PCP.
thing that happens in the movie.
And we said, is this whole movie this guy on drugs?
Are we making a drug movie? There was that funny moment. It was we thought we were making a big rock movie, but is this actually a drug movie?
The one drug we were never able to make funny was heroin. That was the tough one.
There was one sequence that we wrote where he's on the Ed Sullivan show performing a song, and he's forgotten to take the heroin needle out of his arm. And as he plays the guitar, it's shaking around, and then that temporarily sets back his career because it's in the paper that he's corrupting children by doing heroin.
But hats
on
off
Ed
to
Sullivan.
Danny Boyle for train spotting.
Yes.
For actually achieving funny heroin.
So here's the extended Black Sheep sequence, and this was something that we really did a lot of work to make this happen, and ended up pulling it from the movie pretty early, just in the interest of having the movie keep moving, and we knew it would eventually find its right place here. Extended, unbearably long, self-important director's cut.
Dewey, can we
Complete with Thanksgiving dinner on the trampoline.
I remember reading this biography about the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson, and it was actually kind of sad that he was writing all of these amazing songs, and everyone else in the band thought that they weren't the Beach Boys recipe, and that he was doing something terrible by trying to change what they were succeeding with. And so we really got into our Black Sheep sequence. But other than the hardest core Beach Boys fanatics, some of the details may have been too specific,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah. And I mean, you know,
We also were watching that Springsteen documentary where he recorded the song Born to Run for 6 months and couldn't stop working
Yeah.
on it.
it's amazing. Documentary, Wings for Wheels, about the process of going crazy while making a record. That was part of it.
It's some kind of concerto.
Just let him work it out.
And, you know, Brian Wilson, when that was happening, was making Pet Sounds, which a lot of people think is the best rock album ever made. So we believe that Dewey was making Black Sheep. Here was one of the greatest rock albums ever made. And this scene we cut out of the movie early again, but I love it. And John is pretty amazing here. This is dark, though. Some dark stuff we're enjoying. Tangy and salty.
And the song that they perform here was written by Van Dyke Parks, which is strange because he wrote many of the great songs with Brian Wilson. So we thought, could we ask the guy on some level to satirize himself?
Van Dyke worked with
He co-wrote with Brian Wilson.
with Brian Wilson all of the Smile record and was very present for Pet Sounds at that time.
Now, would he would write the music or the words, or what was Van Dyke's
Did the
participation?
arrangements and I believe a lot of the lyrics at different times, and it wasn't always the same. They were working together all the time. And he wrote the song Black Sheep with Mike Andrews. Black Sheep Parts 1 and 2, as it became known. Initially because it was actually in 2 parts in the script, but I just then thought it was funny that Dewey had named had made 2 songs with the same title, Part 1 and Part 2, like it's this song cycle. And this montage we did in about a day, and I always loved this thing, but I do think it's something that you love if it's more about loving music, and I love what John's like here.
I'm in the yard. I want to go outside. Like, I'm about to die.
How was it improvising with a goat?
What does the goat
I
give
couldn't
you
get
back?
that goat to say anything. It was a bummer.
What was harder to improvise with,
Just froze
the
up,
goat
huh?
or the penis?
The goat. The goat was tougher to work with than the penis. The penis, you know, we had a great relationship. This was fun getting to be around an actual orchestra. All these people could really play. There's Charlie Wadhams behind
Charlie
me on
was
the
playing
drums.
drums back there.
Oh, this was great. This girl was amazingly patient with me as I probed her breasts with microphones.
John says, like, would it bother you if I stuck these microphones into your breasts? And she says, no.
Yeah, the weird little approval conversations I would have to have with people, you know, like...
Would it make you uncomfortable?
Does it make you uncomfortable, John, to do that with the naked women?
No, she was a beautiful person.
See, I
Funny,
get
there's a
uncomfortable.
lot of anxiety about it that first day, but when you've got as much of it as we had in this movie, by the time you've done the orgy scene,
Yeah, you broke me
You
like
get
a
kinda
wild
jaded,
stallion
yeah.
on this one. You just, you kept just throwing more and more ridiculous stuff at me. Next thing I knew, I was in a diaper running down a city street,
But you fought for that diaper. There was a
I
moment where the stunt people said, we can't do all the stunts if he's in a diaper. And John was like, I'm putting my foot down. I want to be in a diaper.
Look, if you take PCP, which I'm about to do, if you take PCP, everyone knows that the first thing you do is you take off all your clothes, you get really sweaty, and you start breaking windows and laughing
beating
at the
up
police.
cops, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watched Cops even once knows that.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a stickler about that. Also, I felt, they were like, well, maybe underwear of some kind. I was like, no, we've seen that. I just did Talladega Nights. Will ran around in his underwear. I've got to kick it up a notch. Get me a Swami thong.
There's not a lot of PCP humor out there in modern movies.
No. It's not an area that people have mined much for comedy.
These guys are incredible in this scene.
They are so funny.
You just rove back and forth with the camera with these three amazing improvisers, and one after the other, they just came up with the most ridiculous things. Chris Parnell can lose his temper funnier than anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah. And it really is like, this was another one of these days where you go like, man, there's some seriously funny guys in a very small space right there.
I love that they're talking about getting Siamese cats because there's a great Warren Zevon song called "Porcelain Monkey" about Elvis, and it's and the chorus is he gave it all up for a porcelain monkey, and it's funny that we hit that.
That cat thing must be based on something.
Someone heard that song.
Yeah, I think so. Or that story.
No, I'm the one who pitched that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm the one who said
where's it from?
we were talking about how. I don't know. It just seemed like a really
the
lame
second
kind of
sync.
Christmas gift where someone gives you the same thing every year, like a glass Siamese cat. Sounded funny, and then we just kept talking about it.
This was Jenna's first real scene, actually. This was her first real acting. She did that thing in the booth, but this was her first real scene, and
this feels like the scene like when I'm home with the flu and I'm watching cable that I'll always click channels and this is the scene that'll come on.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
So I ended up getting really like emotionally upset during the scene. We were talking about addiction and relationship stuff, and like it ended up becoming this very real scene. And then at the end, I pop PCP in my mouth and try to pretend that it's candy.
It's just if you look at their two faces in this next couple of shots here. This is what I mean when I say in all these interviews, a level of acting this movie doesn't deserve. I'm talking about this. Like, this is just two really, really good actors doing an emotional low point of a movie.
And those are real.
And within seconds, we'll be flipping cars and drawing mailboxes. That's what makes it exciting. Never know what's coming.
It was such an odd thing to have to do, like in the middle of real tears, like really crying and sobbing, like do the gag, then pop the thing in my mouth. It was I almost had to force myself to do it.
At one point you said it was easier to cry doing this than in a real movie because there's such pressure in a real movie.
That's true. That's true because I don't know. This gave me all kinds of room. Like if I don't really cry, it doesn't matter. It's a comedy. If I do, isn't that weird? Oh, that's a nice shot of my ass there.
Yeah. There's Clayton Townsend, our producer, our other producer in that car. And this song, there's a change happening, I can feel it, is one that we had recorded for the, as a part of Dewey's 60s canon.
Another nice shot of my ass. Thank you very much.
Yep. Really nice shot of your ass. And
it's his blowing in the wind.
When we were starting to put the scene together, we needed to score. It came to a point where we had recorded so many songs. We were like, we actually have enough songs that we can use songs he's not performing in the movie as score for the movie, like you would in the actual biopic, which was a very...
I got to do so many different movies all at once in this one. That was like getting to be the Incredible Hulk for a day.
Yeah.
That PCP rampage.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It's Chip. Wait a second.
It's Jonah Hill. What was funny about this is when we first showed it, it was before Superbad came out, and it got, some laughs. And then Superbad came out, and then we showed it the week after, and we got applause when Jonah came on stage. Like Steve Martin hit the screen.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we shot Jonah's part of this scene after we'd shot pretty much the whole movie. So I'm acting with the young boy, and then we inserted Jonah later, and the scene still works.
Yeah.
And Jonah did some good riff, and he riffed the, you ever try to masturbate with a ghost hand?
Yeah, he did some funny stuff.
Although, actually, wait. I'm going to rewrite history. I thought of that.
I believe it.
Good joke, Judd.
I just want to own that one.
Yeah,
I'm taking that back.
That's
from
yours.
His...
I think you've given him enough. He can give you that. This scene, it's true, worked really well, and part of the way that works, I have to say right now as we head into this next sequence, that part of how we manage all this stuff. Oh, here's the bookend reinserted. But part of the way we can get all of these crazy jokes and then eventually make it work is that a team of editors sit there with me every minute for 6 months going crazy trying to figure out the configurations of how to make all that sort of fit together. And that's Tara Timpone and Steve Welsh who led that effort. And you find a way to take these incredibly funny performances and make them work. And this next sequence, which is basically a restored version of the thing. This is a lot more of it than what was in the theatrical movie. There's some serious editing work in here. Just complicated sequences, lots of music.
It's a second scene with David Krumholtz, who is a real biopic veteran.
He played the same part in Ray. The exact same part.
But he had to be a lot more serious in Ray.
Yeah.
He played the same part, and it said that in the script. But it is nice to have this extended, self-indulgent version of the movie and be able to put all this stuff in here.
But we didn't put the grunge song in here. There was a moment here where Dewey plays a song he's been working on, and it sounds just like a kind of Pearl Jam Nirvana song, and it's like he's created grunge. And David Krumholtz says, "I don't like it. It's all depressing. I don't know what the word is. It's grungy."
This is when we talk about watching the movie just for hair. When you're on that pass of the movie, the hair pass, this is a scene where you will just. This is a scene to be studied. There's some amazing hair work going on here. Both John's do for this period of his life, which I love, and all these guys in the band who are all our actual. There's Mike Andrews and Mike Viola from left to right. And the whole band are the guys who are playing on the tracks, at least some of the tracks, all of them. Everyone furnished with some hair to be proud of, including everyone in the audience.
There's some great extra hair.
Yeah, some great hair. And there she is.
There's a lovely Cheryl Teagues, who I can attest is a very sexy, mature woman.
She's,
of all the people I had to kiss in the movie, and I'm probably giving something away and offending some people here, I really enjoyed kissing Cheryl Teagues a lot.
I don't know if this is going to sound weird, but I really enjoyed watching you kiss Cheryl Teagues.
Really?
Is that uncomfortable for all of us, or?
Well, I don't.
Okay?
Is it uncomfortable for me to admit that I really enjoyed watching you, Judd, watch John kiss Cheryl Teagues?
Is it weird that I have the dailies at home?
And here's a really wild thing, which is John and Cheryl singing "You Don't Have to Be a Star to Be in My Show" in a very provocative way.
Yeah.
But we recorded an actual duet. John did his part, and then Cheryl came and sang her part, and there's Lou and Melvin as the horse.
The freaky thing is that Cheryl
Cut out of the movie somehow.
Yeah,
so many meta movement. There are so many meta moments in this movie, so many like bizarre jokes on top of jokes, and having Cheryl Teagues in the 70s period, just one of these strange things. Like she actually lived through that whole pop culture moment for real, and now here she is, young and beautiful enough looking to be in it in a movie.
Playing herself, and she was hilarious. I will say that this sequence, which is largely cut from the movie, could not be denser with ideas and stuff that we did, including that song "Who Wants to Party," which is Dewey's disco hit that Mike Viola wrote, and then we recorded, and the whole thing, like...
It's like if I could play myself in a movie that took place in the 1990s in the year 2025 and still look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I remember that both Cheryl Ladd and Cheryl Teagues both talked about how they were on, the Donnie and Marie show and all of these shows.
I just said I'm next week I'm going to take a shit on Donnie and Marie in the ratings.
Yeah,
This thing was all shot as a moving Steadicam shot. It's broken into pieces now, but I go from Patrick Duffy to Morgan Fairchild to Cheryl Ladd to Cheryl Teagues in about 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, and we did that on the day of the premiere for my movie, The TV Set, which came out while we were shooting, and there was definitely a moment where Lou and I were sitting there on set thinking, is there any way to work this where Patrick Duffy, Cheryl Ladd, Cheryl Teagues, and Morgan Fairchild all come with me to the premiere of TV Set tonight? But I wasn't able to figure out how to make that work.
I'm still very upset that didn't happen.
And there's your second Cheryl you've made out with in 30 seconds in the movie. All these guys were so game and funny and there to play.
There was an actual, recurring problem for Cheryl Teagues and Cheryl Ladd where people were confusing them because they're both named Cheryl.
Yeah, we sort of waded our way into the middle of that.
Yeah.
But they were so funny. There's Warhols of Dewey back there.
This is kind of the cocaine period. Like, he was on coke
Yeah,
in the 70s.
this is the cocaine period, which is part of why it's not in the movies. When in the theatrical movies, we eventually realized that
You can't top PCP.
where we needed Dewey to be at this moment in the story to set up his redemption was not coked up and partying the whole time. It was depressed and suffering, so that we could feel that he was making progress. So we eliminated this cocaine idea and replaced it with the working out idea.
This is my favorite part, him talking about how happy he is while on cocaine. But we wanted the audience then to think that he was missing Darlene and that his life went to the crapper after that.
And basically, it's just a different version of what it's like when Dewey's feeling low. This is the denial version. Now here's... This thing is...
We've all been there with the last guest at a party.
Yeah. John did like a 10-minute run of this that is insanely funny, of him and the guy character of the last guy at the party, who was an extra who couldn't talk. So it was just John hanging on him, just telling him sad shit. And I remember thinking, like, that Reilly's got that move like nothing I've ever seen.
And then who knew that David Bowie's music would sound good in a big, showy Vegas style?
Yeah. This is sort of the most irreverent.
I have to say, this recording, this cover, probably made all the music geeks on the movie laugh the most, doing Starman and that kind of Doc Severinsen treatment.
And the way you're singing it there. Yeah, this TV show, I think, is an idea that... if it were up to... I've spent 2 years working nonstop on Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, and if someone walked up to me tomorrow and said, would you like to spend next year working on the Dewey Cox variety show? Part of me would just immediately be like, yeah, sure. I always felt we could have done sketches. We could have... Monologues. For Lou and I, this was like one of the running joys of this movie, was coming up with new stuff for the variety show that we would then not use.
At one point, I wrote 5 sketches.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is
That's
just
right.
trying to
There was a
convince
caveman
myself
sketch.
maybe we'd shoot them.
There was a caveman sketch. There was a Knights of the Round Table sketch.
I'm not gonna promise that. Whatever you're comfortable with. I don't smoke
And
don't be afraid.
here she comes.
Well, this scene we shot, this was an additional shoot to try to clarify where Dewey was in his life. So when he sang his final song, you would feel that he had finally learned all the lessons of his life to get his wife back and to know the names of his children for a start, and to kind of make fun of the lessons that people learn in these movies.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, the movies always try to make it look like someone learned some great lesson, but people probably didn't. They probably did. They probably died on drugs.
Well, and also that they do in the way that you do when you're a rock star who's completely lost touch with reality. And I always think that that's a really funny thing, which is where the way that John looks here, in addition to what he's saying, it's a very soulfully performed set of jokes of him describing how miserable things are. and yet he's doing it within the confines of that wig and then that leather suit that nothing screams I've lost touch with what's important like a floral burgundy leather suit.
I've got that jacket in my car right now.
It was so funny when we were doing some research for clothes. John and Deborah and I really had a pretty serious party with the clothes on this movie, and when we would look at what the actual guys that would have been Dewey's contemporaries wore later in life, it was always kind of incredible. There was this documentary John and I watched about Roy Orbison that interviewed all these guys at various times, and what they're wearing, they're always so much cooler than, they're as cool as possible. And wearing the craziest stuff from the 1950s to the 1980s when that documentary was made.
That jacket was made by South Paradiso Leathers here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
As were many of the rock star looking jackets and clothes for the movie.
Joel the Leatherman. Here's some extended, more sexiness.
We were trying to show that, in his life, he was going through a down period, so he couldn't get an erection for 3 women of every possible nationality.
And you'll notice in the set dressing, if you look at that, it's as though there are 2 sort of testicle chandeliers hanging on the sides of his bed.
I know. All I'm asking is that you write one masterpiece. That is the culmination of your entire life.
Jonah Hill.
See how we're getting the story going up? I'm just asking for one masterpiece. We're revving up to the ending here. A big a movie that was influential in this movie that most people wouldn't think of is Beyond the Sea. There was a lot of Bobby Darin, talking to himself as a kid.
Yeah.
A lot of ghosts.
That movie, they actually break into song.
The ghosts?
Everybody, it's as though it's kind of a musical. People also, there are sequences where in dramatizing a moment of his life, they break into song, in a dance number.
And this was something that we reshot. We originally shot them out on a boat, and after finally making up and Pa explaining that he never really was mad, it was a misunderstanding. When he said the wrong kid died, he meant some other kid should have died, not him. And then they start sailing, and the sail swings around and cuts his dad in half. And for some reason, it actually was deeply sad and troubling, and we thought maybe we need a machete fight. Maybe we need the dad to have been planning to murder him at this point. And that turned out to be true, I guess.
So we called up Ray. We said, here's the idea. It involves you to look fierce with a machete. And he started practicing for 2 weeks, machete twirling.
But then he said to you, what'd I do wrong last time?
Yeah, that's right.
What'd I do wrong?
He said, did I screw it up? No, you didn't screw it up.
It's actually the fine line of this type of acting is we think the scenes are so silly when we write them, but then these great actors read them and they actually get tragic and sad, even though it's a man cut in half by a mast.
Yeah. And here's some machete action. You can see he has, in fact, been practicing slicing Nate.
Now, John, you stopped playing Dewey Cox. Then we were shooting Step Brothers. Then you had to come back in the middle of Step Brothers for a few days to pick up a couple of scenes. How was that transition back and forth to Dewey?
Well, once you get a handle on Cox, it's always there with you. No, it was difficult. It was difficult, but it had to be done. So, champions adjust, Judd.
And now you're going out on a little mini tour to promote the movie.
I'm about to play some music tonight at the Roxy. We're going to change the name of the club to the Coxy for one night only.
So is this a thing that is going to be hard to shake in your life? Like, are you going to every year feel like it's important to have like a Dewey Cox anniversary show? How much Cox is in your future?
You're saying how hard is it going to be to shake Cox?
How hard is it going to be to let go of Cox?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much people love Dewey Cox, and if they do, then then I'd be happy to make a little, a little.
I think
cottage
regardless of
industry
how
out of it.
people feel about it, you should just really work it for a long.
But now you have songs.
Every holiday.
This is like if you show up at a club to
Yeah.
see the White Stripes, they go, "Hey, come on stage and do Walk Hard." You have a little canon.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. Maybe they'll even give me like a month in Vegas at one of those casinos, like Dewey on stage every night.
That's a good idea.
You could be a greeter like Joe Louis or Willie Mays.
However long we worked on this movie, I still really enjoy a Cox joke.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too.
Still finding new ones. Still
And
laughing
as
at
many
them.
as there are in the theatrical movie, there's a good 30 more in this extended version of the movie.
Now
This is where the you describe it, Judd.
Well, this is a scene that I really enjoyed. Just a fist fight with Patrick Duffy. He's always been a reference. Will Ferrell and Adam McKay always like to say Patrick Duffy and things, and it really was the only way to top them is to actually get Patrick Duffy and have John beat him senseless.
I have to say, on my way home from work this day, I called Will Ferrell and left him a message saying, "Dude, I gotta tell you what I did today. I got in a slap fight with Patrick Duffy, the real Patrick Duffy."
That's the line I love is Cheryl says to him, "Stop it, Dewey, you animal. Patrick Duffy's just saying what we're all feeling."
Then I say, "You stay the hell away from me, Cheryl Cox Teagues."
Yeah, that's right. That's her married name. This was one of the original ideas for the movie. Crazy amount of destruction, starting with the gold records and
Punching out
headlights,
a rubber tree.
and then leading to
Destroying a Zen garden.
destroying a Zen garden, sort of slightly messing up a Zen garden.
And then
Jackhammer, you really feel like you're making a Bugs Bunny cartoon at the point when someone brings
That
in
is
the jackhammer. When you
the
say
single broadest joke in the movie.
it really is.
I'm sure it came from you, Lou. Like,
yeah.
where do we go from here, Lou? And
I
he
think that was
he'd put up his
actually-
hands and go, "Jackhammer?"
I believe that. Well, was it you? I think that was Sean. I think
maybe.
Sean Mannion, the prop master, said, "I have a jackhammer."
I know it was me because I was a little bit embarrassed about it.
Oh, okay, it was you, and you blamed Sean. Yeah.
Yes.
Lou was also pitching that he's wearing one of those exercise belts that shakes your belly. He loves old contraptions.
Here's another crazy scene which starts out as a real dramatic scene for me from the inside as an actor, like, a father-son not being in touch with your children kind of scene.
Forgive me.
And then it ends up like this, with me not knowing the boy's name.
It's this thing where it happens over and over in the movie where John emotionally sucks you into the scene when what he's saying is so ridiculous.
It's nice to form.
And there's always is a moment like this. The epiphany moment in these movies are always pretty hilarious, where after 60 years of complete destruction and abuse of everyone around them, they just see the light.
But I'm gonna admit it. I am always emotionally affected by Dewey reconnecting with his 70 kids here. Like, as absurd as this, from the cuts that I would see while we were still shooting, they would send it to me as they put it together, and I was like, it moved me. It's totally absurd. But it got me every time.
That's the weird thing. You start trafficking in like biopic story arcs and the structure of these kind of stories. You have to surrender to their power at some point and
eventually.
realize the audience wants him to become a better person. They want him to get in touch with those kids.
And you go like, I'm touched. And here's here's Dewey and his many, many children, which was kind of crazy because we did this in 3 different locations, all the catch. And we got a system down. By the 3rd time you're doing that, you know what you're doing. It's easy. And fun to do.
And no song we could write could top the spirit of the Partridge Family theme song for this sequence.
That's right. A lot of very important children in this sequence also. Kids, I shoved as many kids of our friends and family and crew and everything into this
My kids are going to be so pissed when they know there was an opportunity.
We couldn't afford
Your kids are going to be
anymore.
pissed for a lot of reasons, Judd.
And there she is, Darlene at 50. You can see in the extended version of the movie, it's a much longer time that she's gone, and you've been with, you've been married again to Cheryl, and
I have to say, Jenna had the toughest time wearing this old age makeup. This isn't even the worst of it. She gets waddly later.
And she really, truly hated it.
Yeah, she was like,
she could not have. It
"Don't
was not
look
like,
at me! Don't look at me!"
She
and I was
really
like, "Why?"
She walked on hating it, and I thought that it was just going to be kind of like, that's our joke, is that she hates the age makeup, and then it became clear that she really hated it.
Yeah.
Like, she truly did not like walking around like that.
She goes, "You look at me differently when I'm like this. Stop."
But it's
looking
kind
at
of
me."
like Star Trek age makeup. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not really
It's way out there.
a real
I loved
show.
it. I loved having the old age makeup on, because at least.
Well,
I
you
didn't
looked incredibly cool. I mean, she looks great too, but I mean, you look.
A little Hal Holbrook at 60 going.
It's a funny thing, which is that this is
this is the longest setup for a payoff for a joke ever. When I recover my sense of smell here. I mean, how much legwork in the movie did we put in with all this different sense of smell jokes to have this very powerful moment?
There's nothing so moving as seeing someone smell again for the first time.
And to say, "I smelt it. I smelt it."
And go straight to the armpit.
And the interesting thing is that one of our DVD producers who works for me, Greg Cohen, who's in the other room right now, he has no sense of smell, which makes the whole thing uncomfortable that we're enjoying this joke. And then every day I'd look over and there he is, not smelling.
I can see him in the next room crying.
He never laughs at this sequence.
He just looks at you like, yeah, real fucking funny, guys.
But he's lucky that he doesn't have
Here's
to smell
Dewey
shit.
literally smelling the flowers. He's now stopped. He's learned to appreciate life.
And water skiing do not mix. Now you remember
I do think it's so... The age makeup is so well done. Like, better than age makeup is almost ever done, and it adds a really funny dimension to this joke of the playing it from 14 to 80 thing, because... I think that you actually buy this much more than you usually do.
With the members-only jacket. I like when you get old and you're out of touch with fashion.
Here's the funniest aging thing in a movie that we didn't even touch is League of Their Own. Do you remember the last scene of League of Their Own where
But that was all
different
real
actors
old ladies.
with looped by the actors from the...
Yes,
So you have Gina Davis looping, something like that was that's one idea we didn't even think to do.
That's like the body double idea.
That would have been good.
Yeah, it was really fun being the old version of this guy because I could finally slow down a little bit. It's actually kind of a physical vacation for me during the filming of the movie, like to be able to move slower.
This song is so dirty that, it's so dirty in the movie, and the other verses we didn't use are just really too shocking for words. And when we shot this, just the entire crew was just white with shame.
It was really fun to shoot that video, though, actually. I felt like I had another alternate career I could see for myself there. This is Simon Helberg playing Dreidel Chaim. He's another member of the...
Hey, who makes that computer? Oh, it's Sony does. That's right.
I wonder if they're available in stores
Yeah.
or online.
Simon is really funny here, though.
Yeah, Simon's amazing. He came in after the bar was set very high by the previous Hasidic characters in the movie.
He
nailed it.
He nailed it.
Dewey Cox and Little Nutsack, what a package.
Yeah.
A much quoted line.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite oddballs. This is John's rating here. I love this one.
Of course you can rock, sweetheart.
Well, I don't know that I can rock.
the level of seriousness to that. I've always thought it's so funny. I don't know if I can rock. Like, he's just, he's incredibly worried about it, and he's yelling at people, and John made a funny choice, which is that Old Dewey... This really is just something that Reilly came up with that is not really in the script, which is Old Dewey is kind of a dick to like he's sort of like so grumpy that
yeah, he's no longer trying to please people. He's just at home on the farm.
Members only jacket.
And it turns out all that
pissed.
hard walking destroyed his knees and hips. He almost can't walk anymore.
He walked a little too hard, it turned out.
Yeah.
Oh, watch the hip. Oh.
And then we come to one of the more surreal days of shooting when all these real famous people came
to sing Walk Hard.
To sing a fake.
Now, there's three legends front and center here, and right behind them is, so that's Lyle, obviously, Jewel and Jackson Brown. Right behind them is Don Was playing bass right there, which I always thought was so funny. He's a great record producer. And what's funny about that is that Don actually plays bass at these things all the time, and in fact called us a couple weeks after this and said, like, he had just done one. I just did the Paul Simon one, and I was, you nailed it.
Hello.
Oh, he is so cute. What are you doing?
That was really fun with those guys.
For the people that are watching the movie for hair, this is the one moment in the movie where Dewey actually wears a wig, where he says...
Yeah, that's right.
His Carl Perkins wig.
This is a very sophisticated hair joke, which is that bald Dewey returns to the stage and wants to wear a wig.
He gets self-conscious about his appearance.
And here's Ghostface Killer, who could not have been more fun and into this. This was really kind of like a crazy morning. I gotta agree with
Ghostface kicked it over the top here with the celebrity appearances. This is when it becomes sublime. When
yeah,
he comes
just to
out.
be able to say their four names together in a sentence, always, we all love that. Lyle Lovett, Jackson Brown, Jewel, and Ghostface Killer.
And Jewel yodeling over Ghostface Killer, rapping. It's just, it's an amazing hat trick.
I got to write some lyrics with Ghostface that day, and I have to say it was an uncomfortable moment.
Lyle Lovett is one of my heroes, as is Jackson Brown. It was really fun. Joel was so great. We had a good time.
Medication for erectile dysfunction. It gives you a boner.
Now, originally we wanted him to be smoking crack in a really happy way.
Well, originally we shot crack, and it turned out it had a little bit of that problem, which is something about crack is disturbing.
We're not sure what part of crack, but...
I don't know what it is. There's something about the idea that this old man's a crack addict. I don't know.
It's the same drug in a different form that we've used earlier in the movie, and yet no, not in that form, not in the rock form. That's not funny.
It's funny in The Wire.
Now this I could not be prouder of. The appearance of the actual Temptations, which is like a Top Gun joke, but man, standing there shooting them doing that was an unbelievably cool thing.
Oh, I'm so glad that this scene made it into the movie right here, because this to me is most emblematic of biopics, is the conversation in the mirror, and then with the various visions from your life at the end of the movie. This says it all in the biopic world to me.
And this is like so complicated, it's almost amazing we cut it out. It's like, this is a good day and a half of shooting. But now it lives.
Look at him in the background watching.
My reflection watches on it.
He's pissed.
Reflection becomes a character. And it's funny when you're shooting a thing like this where you talking about it on the set and stuff, you start to think of the reflection as a different character. Like you kind of get absorbed into this reality more than, well, what's he doing? Well, what does the reflection think about this?
I have, haven't I? You sure have.
And there's Pa, who is holding an oar.
Well, that's because he got killed on a sailboat.
Because he used to get killed on a sailboat.
It doesn't
so
really
now
make
we
sense.
have a great. But I like to think that there's another reason, even when it's just in this symbol.
Because we've all been sailing on troubled waters.
Yes, that's
No,
exactly
he was
right.
canoeing
That's why
in heaven. He was just canoeing, like in Wizard of Oz when you go by in the boat. He was just up there canoeing, came down.
Paw, inner child.
Yeah, I like that. I've always liked that.
I've learned that I can't spend all my time thinking about Dewey Cox, and I've also learned I need
And
to
this
love Dewey.
speech always made me laugh.
Spend all my time thinking about other people. I have
It's
to
just
focus
like
on myself.
it's the thing you were talking about of like trying to extract a message from the movie, and here it's just it's like he's just got 8 convoluted, contradicting messages wrapped into one.
Music. It's about the music.
It always has been. It always has been. It always has.
Oh,
Ouch.
that was a John Reilly idea.
Yeah, my
And,
feminine side.
Yeah, I could not have resisted it more. Sort of passive aggressively, and yet here it is, and I'm glad it's there. It's really funny. I kept saying like, yeah. And Vedder, there's no one cooler than Eddie Vedder, and he showed up expecting to do about 6 lines. We handed him 4 pages, which is again Apatow mind tricked that we were describing at the beginning of the commentary. Like, I'm sure he'll do it. Just real quick, you know. It's written down. He can read it. I'm sure he'll do 4 pages. And we handed it to him, and you actually weren't there for this moment. And there was a clear look of like, I met Eddie Vedder 30 seconds ago. I feel like he's a little mad at me. And then
taking advantage of him like corporations always do.
And we had a conversation about it. And he said, I'm trusting you here. And I said, I promise you there will be you will never see anything you can't be proud of. It turned out not to be an issue because he walked out on stage and in one take read a 4-page speech and just ripped it. Was pitch perfect to my mind instantly.
And
it was, again, something to behold.
And then we didn't use it. We didn't lie to him. It was...
No, well, we could have. Not for lack of performance power. The full speech is on the DVD.
Forgive me if I'm a bit rusty. This is the first song I've written.
And this is Beautiful Ride by Dan Byrne and Mike Viola. And I just can't overstate the contribution that those guys in particular and the songwriters and music team in particular had on this movie, because to me it makes the movie. And there's all this great work by so many people, but what I think John and I will both be sort of smiling to ourselves about kind of forever is the time that we spent with those guys making these songs, and their sense of humor and sensibility you know, is just, the movie's covered in it. And this song is a Dan Byrne bit of writing that Mike came in, joined him on, wrote this incredible chorus, and it was just like that spirit of collaboration, then John singing it, Mike's massive production, Manish and Tom sitting there overseeing, coordinating every aspect of it. It was a crazy thing.
And this song ends up being like even though we're making so much fun of everything, the song ends up being like a real love song to music, you know?
Yeah,
There's some
right.
funny bits in it too, but it also, I remember, yeah, funny bits
Love that.
like a rubber baby.
Like a rubber baby that Tim kisses.
But Mike Andrews, the producer, turned to me one day and he said, it really is about just making a little music every day until you die. Like, and I thought he was joking at first, and I realized, like, no, that's true. So I don't know. You invest enough time in anything,
and he
you end
actually
up
does.
putting a little love in it.
Mike Andrews makes a little music every day, and it's we definitely this part could not have been more fun. This idea I always thought was so funny. This is a brilliant Lou Morton suggestion, which is that we see all the ghosts there digging the show, and then someone dies, and it makes the transition within the course of the song. So you actually see the guy die and become a ghost. And Krumholtz does that heart attack so funny, and I like that sentence, does that heart attack so funny. And the orchestra, the choir, there's Dan Byrne playing the organ.
With a truly ridiculous wig.
Yeah, with a truly ridiculous wig. We got a lot of the musicians in there every time. Also, on the hair tip, for those doing their hair pass right now, I hope that someone's laughing to themselves about the fact that the whole band is bald in exactly the same way, which
A strong choice.
very
but-
proud of that. Very proud of
Except
that.
for Dewey, who wore a wig, because
Yeah.
he's still very proud.
That's right. Here's maybe the
understand-
weirdest joke in the movie that no one's ever asked about. What happened there? No one ever says, like, what is that?
A drug trade gone bad, and
Yeah.
no kill hits
They
on
had
Parnell.
to shoot their way out of it. And then here's the big sink finale.
The piece de resistance.
He's crying, he's laughing, he's toasting with the penis. And that look after the penis always makes me laugh. Like, he's just so proud.
And I actually get choked up when you start flipping back and forth between the old and the young guy.
That is
here.
great.
That's... Uta Briezowitz also needs a little love real quick, because she just shot the hell out of this movie. It's so pretty. And it's her work.
I've watched the very end of this movie a few times now with test audiences, and I have to say, of all of my movies, this one gets the biggest laughs during the credits that I've ever been in. I mean, after this original Big Daddy song, when you hear Dewey's own amazingly, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, he predicted how people would feel about his own death.
Yeah.
And wrote the song
Yeah.
Dewey Cox
He
Died.
anticipated his own mortality, his own demise. You know, now that we've been done with this movie for almost 2 weeks, we have the benefit of incredible perspective.
Yeah.
But I will say, this was really fun. This was a crazy ride and really a good time.
A beautiful ride.
Beautiful ride.
Stick around for a little nugget at the end where you get to see the actual Dewey Cox. I can't believe we actually got this footage of this guy.
Yeah.
We're so lucky.
Yeah.
It was right before he died.
Well, right now, this is Dewey Cox Died, the song.
Any final words, Lou? You're probably just happy not to have to get up early anymore.
I am. That was really traumatizing. It was very difficult.
that was the longest period of time you had to get up that early?
That
probably?
was. It turns out when you shoot the movie, you start at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
This was a really physical movie, too. Carrie Dietrich's name flying by there. She and Clayton, sort of ran that production, the physical part of it that was just really nuts, because you got so much music and dancing and people and, tons of extras and costumes and animals. You got a camel that informs the whole experience. A lot of people worked so hard on this movie. John Pritchett did these amazing tracks. We just had one of the great sound mixers, so like we didn't have to loop anything because it didn't sound good, and it was really fun.
Standby painter Bill Hoyt. He was always there if we needed something
Standby
touched
painter Bill Hoyt was featured in one of those calendar section things in the movie theaters for meeting his wife on the set of The Big Chill, my dad's movie.
Really?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, that's Goldie the painter. Bill Hoyt, I hope to do a calendar section piece with him someday. He'll be the star of the sequel. And right around now, though we can't hear it, I know what's happening around Dan Burns and Mike Viola's credit is that the track transitions to Farmer Glickstein, which is one of the other Dan Byrne crazy metaphor songs. And Dan's demo for this was like in the early days of this movie what I would listen to just like for fun to remember what I thought was funny about it. And then John went in and just ripped it. Judd, what's the main thing you think about? If you had to sum up the Walk Hard experience in one phrase right now, it would be...
Well, it would be that tonight I'm going to put on my rock and roll leather, and I'm going to go watch Dewey Cox rock out at the Roxy, and the surrealness of this will hit me then.
Yeah.
And then...
Let's all wear leather suits tonight.
I know where to get it. Where would you get those leather suits,
Lou,
John?
are you game for...
Is there a place to get leather suits
about
in
time
LA?
we did
Yeah,
that.
South Paradiso Leather.
South Paradiso Leather. Well, what city is that in? If I
It's
was
in
right
Los
near-
Angeles.
it's right near my
on
house.
Avocado Street.
Really? Is there a
Yeah.
website for that? We could
I
go
don't think
check
there's
out?
a website. There's a MySpace page though
Yeah.
for South
Yeah.
Paradiso.
Are they going to
Yeah.
have stuff in our size? Like
Oh
right
sure,
off the
they'll
rack? You
custom
can-
make you outfits.
But we got to have it for tonight.
Yeah. If
Well,
he works quickly. The thing about it is it all fits really tight, like almost hard to move tight.
Yeah, like
Good.
someone has to help you take the jacket off type.
Yeah.
Good.
He has some used ones. If you're the same size as the guy from the Psychedelic Furs,
Hey,
you'll be fine.
I think I hear the real Dewey Cox.
All right, we'll leave the audience with that. Good night, everyone.
Good night. I hope this has been an informative commentary for you.
Yeah, I hope you've learned something about yourself and America.
You did.
It's kind of freaky how much I look like this guy, I have to say. You really did find the right guy to play this
It still freaks me. There's only one guy.
this legend.
He's a little crossy-eyed.
It's just his nose. Bye-bye.
Thank you.